This webinar is on the new Medicare ABN form. Just a quick disclaimer before we get going. The information in this webinar is for educational purposes. It's not intended to substitute your clinical decision-making or billing protocols. Every attempt has been made to make certain that the information in this webinar is 100% accurate. However, it's not guaranteed. Let me tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. My name is Dr. Marty Kotler. I am a chiropractor. I'm also a certified professional compliance officer and certified billing and coding specialist. Target coding has been helping thousands of doctors and their staff members for over 15 years. My area of expertise is in billing, coding, documentation, Medicare, risk management, and HIPAA. And I'm kind of unique. Most doctors are not certified coders. Most certified coders are not doctors. So you'll see during this webinar how I combine both specialties to make sure you're doing things properly and you're getting paid what you deserve. All right, let's begin. ABN stands for Advanced Beneficiary Notice of Non-Coverage. Now, this specifically relates to Medicare Part B patients. So this form must be given to Medicare Part B patients before providing a typically covered Medicare covered service. What's the only service that's covered by Medicare Part B for chiropractors? Spinal manipulation. So the purpose of an ABN is to let a Medicare patient know that Medicare is probably not going to pay on the basis of medical necessity. And this allows the patient to make an informed consumer decision. So according to Medicare, maintenance care is not considered medically necessary. So before providing a maintenance spinal manipulation, you would need to give the patient an ABN form. As I mentioned, the ABN form relates specifically to Medicare Part B patients. These are the patients that show up with the red, white, and blue card. Staff members, when you have a patient that hands you a red, white, and blue card, if they have Medicare Part B, it'll say right on the card as you see on your screen. So Medicare Part B only covers spinal manipulation. The most common reason to issue an ABN to a Medicare Part B patient is maintenance care. If you don't go over it properly, you won't be able to collect money from the patient. You must verbally go over the form with the patient. You keep the original, give a copy to the patient. If you don't issue an ABN properly, you may have to give the money back to the patient. You're not supposed to say, well, we never know if Medicare is going to pay, so we have the patient sign an ABN on every visit. That's not a reasonable reason, not a reasonable basis to give a patient an ABN form. So the new ABN form, the updated ABN form, now expires March 31st of 2029. You could start using it right away. In the bottom left corner, it says 03312029. This new form is better than the other form. The most recent form that got updated had more blanks and more areas to fill in. So I like this form better. What you see on your screen is a blank ABN form, which is free. You can get it online. Just Google ABN form and you can download it. Oh, by the way, there's the link to download the blank ABN form. I like to keep things simple. We have the Medicare Part B patient's first visit, and then if they stick around long enough to accept maintenance care, then we have the maintenance visit. So you could use the ABN form for non-covered services. This is what it looks like. Top left corner, patient's name. Top right corner, your office name, address, and phone number. And then in the box that says item, test, or service, list what you're going to be doing. These are the services that are not covered. Do not put spinal manipulation on this form. Why? Because spinal manipulation is a covered service. Now, I know I'm splitting hairs when I say spinal manipulation is always covered. It just becomes not medically necessary when it's done for maintenance purposes. That's why you don't put spinal manipulation on the same form as non-covered services. So in this example, exam, x-rays, modalities, therapeutic procedures, vitamins. In the reason box, these are non-payable by Medicare when provided by a chiropractor. Now, I know this doesn't make sense for many of you listening to this for the first time. Patients might not understand it. Patients might say, well, when I go to my medical doctor, exams are covered. When I get x-rays by a radiologist, it's covered. I don't understand. I give the same response. I don't understand it either, but these are the rules. I don't make them, I just explain them. And then put in the cost of these services. And then the patient would have to choose an option. I want these non-covered services. I also want Medicare billed. That's option one. Option two says, I want these non-covered services, but don't bill Medicare. Patient has to sign and date the form. Now, instead of using this, many of the doctors we work with prefer to use this target coding form. It's so much easier, makes life a lot easier for staff. We always want to help reduce administrative burden placed on staff members. So this is target codings form for Medicare Part B patients. For the initial visit, it says Medicare Part B doesn't cover all services and items provided in this office, even though we have a good reason to think you need them. Medicare Part B only covers spinal manipulation performed by our chiropractor for active treatment. Medicare Part B does not cover, and then list the services that you're going to be providing: exams, x-rays, orthotics, decompression, laser, shockwave. I like this form. It says on the form, I understand that this office does not typically build health plans for non-covered services. However, will submit upon request. So that covers the option boxes. So we prefer this form. However, let me back up. You can use an ABN form. Get something signed by the patient, either an ABN form or a form that states these are the services that are not covered. Get that out of the way. That's the first visit. Now, if the patient is willing to stick around for maintenance care, now the ABN form becomes mandatory. You can't use any other form. So this is what it looks like for those of you that are participating providers: maintenance care, item, chiropractic spinal manipulation for maintenance care. I have the 3 CPT codes that are covered by Medicare Part B. There's only three: 98940, 41, and 42. Reason, see, this is a different reason. That's why you don't mix spinal manipulation and non-covered services on the same form. The reason here is Medicare does not pay for chiropractic manipulation of the spine for maintenance care. And whatever you're going to charge the patient, put that in the estimated cost. And then back to the option box. It says in option one, I want the maintenance care, but I want Medicare billed. That's fine. You'll just remove the AT and replace it with GA. I would prefer the patient check option two, which says, I want the item listed above, which is the maintenance care, but do not bill Medicare. Now there's a little option box under additional information. You may want to add this. It says, if you experience a new injury or an exacerbation of your previous condition, we'll put you back on Medicare. Let the patient know that. Patient has to sign and date the form. Now, some of you are non-par, not accepting assignment. It's the same form, it just has to be changed. The last line of option one, you need to cross out. And in the additional information, add this. This supplier doesn't accept assignment from Medicare for the items listed above. I'm responsible for paying for this doctor's charges. If Medicare does pay, even though they won't, but put this in anyway. If Medicare does pay, Medicare will pay me the Medicare approved amount for this item, and this may be less than the provider's charge. So this is for those of you that are non-par, non-assignment. Some patients come in that are considered QMB patients. These are qualified Medicare beneficiaries. These are patients that have Medicare as primary and Medicaid as their supplement. And it'll say it right on the card, QMB. So for these patients, you're supposed to waive the deductibles and coinsurance. And the form is filled out a little differently. Option one must be pre-checked. You don't have a choice. You must submit the claim for QMB patients or dual eligibility patients, and you have to cross out the second sentence. It says you can ask to be paid now. I understand that if Medicare doesn't pay, I'm responsible for payment, so we need to cross that out because QMB patients are not responsible for deductibles or coinsurance. Now back to the maintenance visits for par and non-par. If the patient checks option 2, you're going to need to get what I call a proper denial. So here's a sample 1500 form showing active treatment. You'll see 98940 AT. About a month later, the patient says, I'm all on board for maintenance care. They check option 1, then you'll replace AT with GA. And this is what you want to get back from Medicare, a PR96 remark. That's what you want. That's how you get a proper denial, patient responsible. If you get a CO remark, or EOB, that says the patient is not responsible. That means contractual obligation. Now, if you get that, it's okay. You can resubmit the claim. It's okay. Sometimes mistakes happen, but the goal is to get a PR96 remark so you could have the patient pay you, and that's the compliant way to do it. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the ABN form, this is where I get some of my information from the Medicare Learning Network. Now, while I have you here, let me touch on Medicare Part C. These are Medicare Advantage plans. The ABN form does not apply to Medicare Advantage plans. Medicare Advantage plans may pay for exams and x-rays. Most of them only pay for spinal manipulation. Now, this is something you should be aware of. According to the Medicare Managed Care Manual, Chapter 6, even if you're non-contracted with a Medicare Advantage plan, Part C, you're supposed to accept the allowable amounts. I know that might be bad news for some of you, but again, I don't make the rules, I just explain them. And what we do is we have a form. Now, this is the form that we recommend for your out-of-network Medicare Advantage plan patients. It says you're responsible for all services and products provided in this office that are not covered by your Medicare Advantage plan. See if it's covered. You have to accept payment in full. So this is for out-of-network. And some of you are in network with Medicare Advantage plan patients. Now, you may have your own financial form that you use. Take a look at this one. Maybe you want to add some of mine to yours. So this is for your Medicare Advantage plan in-network patients. So that's a quick summary of the Medicare new ABN form. Please check with your Medicare carriers and all carriers you bill prior to submitting claims. We can't guarantee this information will guarantee payment from any insurance company or patient, and you know things change all the time. So stay on top of these changes by attending seminars and webinars and joining your national and state professional associations. Target coding has been around a while. As I mentioned earlier, we have options to fit every practice: Medicare, cash, in-network, out-of-network, PI. We do many services and products. We write compliance manuals. We offer memberships. We do credentialing, just a few things that we offer. Stay in touch with us by following us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Here's general contact information: email info@targetcoding.com, telephone number 1-800-270-7044, website targetcoding.com. We have a HIPAA secure fax number that for those of you that would like to fax us information, 1-844-831-2347. Any questions? Feel free to set up a free consultation. You could do that by scanning the QR code you see in the bottom right corner, or feel free to give us a call or send us an email. So again, I want to thank everyone for attending. I hope you learned a lot. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.